At first glance, it sounds impossible. An island with people, homes, shops, schools, boats, and families, but no roads. No highways cutting across the land. No cars passing each other. No traffic lights. No delivery trucks. No asphalt ribbon connecting one side to the other. And yet, this island community has survived like this for generations. Not because they forgot to build roads. Not because they couldn't, but because they chose a different way of life. Today, I want to tell you the story of a place where the path from one home to another is often a narrow dirt trail, a wooden dock, or a boat ride across blue water. A place where the sound of engines is replaced by waves, footsteps, and bicycle bells. A place where life still moves at the speed of the sea. This is the story of why this island community still lives without roads. And once you understand it, you may start to wonder whether the modern world has made too many roads and too little room for everything else. On most islands, roads arrive as a symbol of progress. They bring cars, tourism, supplies, and access. They connect people to hospitals, markets, schools, and each other. For many communities, roads are freedom. But on this island, roads never became the answer. The island is not empty. It is not a forgotten dot in the ocean. It is home to real people with real routines, real challenges, and real pride. The absence of roads is not a sign of neglect. It is a reflection of geography, history, and a very different relationship with the land. To understand that, you have to imagine the island itself. Instead of wide, flat spaces where roads can stretch in straight lines, the island is shaped by water, mangroves, rocky edges, sandy paths, wetlands, and uneven ground. In some places, the terrain is simply too fragile for heavy vehicles. In others, the people live close enough to the shore that boats are more practical than roads ever could be. For many island communities like this, the sea is not a barrier. It is the main street. Children grow up learning that the route to a neighbor's house may be by canoe or small boat. Fishermen leave before sunrise and return with the day's catch, not by driving to a harbor, but by pushing off into the water they know like an old friend. Supplies arrive from larger towns by boat, unloaded by hand, carried on shoulders, and distributed through the community by foot. To someone from a city, this might sound inconvenient, slow, hard, even outdated. But to the people who live there, this is simply life. And life, when lived long enough in one place, becomes a system that makes sense. One of the biggest reasons this island still has no roads is that the community never built its identity around cars. In many places, roads are built because the population is spread out and people need to move quickly. But here, the settlement pattern is different. Homes are clustered. Distances are short. The most common journeys are not long commutes to work across the island, but daily walks to a dock, a market, a church, a school, or a family home nearby. When the scale of life is small, roads can seem unnecessary. And when the environment is delicate, roads can even become harmful. Building roads on an island is not as simple as pouring concrete and paving over the land. Roads require clearing vegetation, reshaping terrain, managing drainage, and maintaining surfaces exposed to salt, humidity, flooding, and storms. On an island surrounded by water, every road is vulnerable to erosion and weather damage. A single powerful storm can crack pavement, wash out embankments, and turn a road into a repair bill that a small community cannot easily afford. That is another part of the story. Roads are expensive, not just to build, but to maintain. It is easy to say, why not just make roads? But the real answer is more complicated. A road is not a one-time project. It is a commitment. It needs regular repairs, drainage systems, equipment, fuel, and money. For a small island community, especially one with limited economic resources, that money might be better spent on clean water, healthcare, schools, boats, docks, or preserving the coastline that protects everyone. So the absence of roads is not laziness or backwardness. It is prioritization. And that prioritization has shaped the social rhythm of the island in powerful ways. Let me tell you about a typical morning. The sun rises early, and before the heat builds, people are already moving. A woman carries fresh bread to a neighbor. A boy pedals a bicycle along a narrow path that winds between houses and trees. Two fishermen sit near the water mending nets, talking about wind direction and tide timing. Somewhere in the distance, you hear the thump of a small boat motor starting up. There is no congestion, No honking, no impatient weaving through traffic. People are not trapped by roads because roads do not define their movement. Instead, the island moves through its own network of footpaths, waterways, and community knowledge. Everyone learns where to step when the ground is soft after rain. Everyone knows which route is fastest at high tide. Everyone understands which dock is safe when the wind shifts. In this way, the island creates a living map in the minds of its residents. That kind of knowledge is hard to measure, but it matters. It creates a community where people depend on local memory, shared wisdom, and constant interaction. You don't just pass through your neighbors' lives here. You are part of them, and that has benefits. Without roads, there are fewer vehicles, which means less air pollution, less noise, and fewer accidents involving cars and motorcycles. Children can walk and play with more freedom. Elders can sit outside and talk without the constant roar of traffic. The island stays quieter, and that quiet becomes part of its character. Tourists who visit often notice this immediately. They arrive expecting convenience, maybe even a bit of frustration, but what they find is something else, a slower, more intimate world. There are no lines of cars blocking views of the coast, no endless parking lots, no rush hour stress. The island feels more open to the human scale. People are visible. Sounds carry farther. Time seems to loosen. But of course, no roads also means real challenges. Life without roads is not romantic every day. If someone gets sick in the middle of the night, getting to medical help can be complicated. Delivering construction materials can be harder. Transporting heavy goods requires creativity, patience, and physical labor. When storms hit, boat schedules change, paths flood, and access can be disrupted more easily than in places with paved roads. And yet, the community has adapted. That is the most important thing to understand. This island did not simply remain roadless because it was stuck in the past. It adapted because adaptation is what communities do when survival depends on it. Instead of trucks, they use boats. Instead of highways, they use footpaths and waterways. Instead of rapid, individual transportation, they rely on shared rhythms and collective planning. A delivery coming from the mainland is not something one person handles alone. People help unload. Neighbors help distribute. Everyone knows when the supply boat is arriving, and everyone adjusts. That creates a different kind of efficiency, not the efficiency of speed, but the efficiency of cooperation. There is something deeply revealing about the way communities organize themselves when they do not have the backup of roads. In many places, if you miss a bus, you wait for another. If your car breaks down, you call a mechanic. If traffic is bad, you blame the city. On this island, people cannot always outsource movement. They must work with the environment, not against it. That changes the culture. People plan ahead more carefully. They watch the weather more closely. They value relationships because help often comes from someone nearby, not from a system far away. The island's lack of roads has encouraged a kind of mutual dependence that modern life sometimes weakens. Of course, this doesn't mean everyone loves the hardships equally. Ask the younger generation, and you'll hear mixed feelings. Some are proud of the island's unique identity. They do not want it flattened into another ordinary place connected by concrete and traffic. They value the peace, the closeness, the sense that the water still shapes everyday life. But some also dream of easier access. They want better medical transport. They want safer ways to move goods. They want opportunities that are easier to reach from outside. For them, the question is not whether roads would erase the island's soul. The question is whether the island can keep its soul while gaining more options. That is the tension at the heart of many roadless communities. Development versus preservation. Access versus identity. Convenience versus cost. And there are no simple answers. In fact, one reason this island has remained without roads is that every alternative has consequences. Build roads, and you may open the door to more tourism, which can bring income but also pressure on housing, water, and the environment. Build roads, and you may increase mainland-style commerce, which can help some families but push others into losing land or changing livelihoods. Build roads, and you may make movement easier, but you may also make it easier for outside interests to reshape the community from the ground up. Sometimes, not building a road is a way of saying, we are still deciding who we want to become. That is not resistance to change. That is carefulness. It is the knowledge that once a road enters a place, it does more than move people. It changes what people build, where they gather, what they buy, and how they imagine their future. A road is never just a road. It is a promise, a pressure, and a path toward a different kind of life. For this island, the choice to remain roadless has helped protect something precious: continuity. The old fishing practices are still alive. The social ties between families remain strong. The shoreline is less carved up by concrete. The natural landscape still feels present in everyday life. You can see where the land ends and the sea begins, and that boundary matters. It reminds people that they live in relationship with nature, not above it. And perhaps that is why visitors often leave with a strange feeling. They come expecting to pity the island, but instead they admire it. They realize that without roads does not mean without progress. It means progress was defined differently here, not by how fast you can drive, but by how well a community can preserve itself while still meeting its needs. That is a lesson worth paying attention to, because in our world, we often assume that the best solution is the one that looks most like what we already know. More pavement, more speed, more machines. But this island reminds us that alternatives can work if they fit the place, the people, and the life already there. You do not always need to force a landscape into your preferred design. Sometimes you need to listen to the land. Sometimes the water is the road. Sometimes the path is the community itself. So why does this island still live without roads? Because roads were never the only way forward. Because the geography makes roads difficult and costly. Because boats, paths, and local knowledge already serve daily life. Because the community values its environment, its pace, and its independence. And because sometimes the most powerful decision a place can make is to remain faithful to the way it has always lived, while adapting just enough to survive. The next time you see a map filled with highways and intersections, remember this island. Remember that there are still places where the sea carries what roads usually do. Remember that progress is not one size fits all. And remember that some communities choose not to be connected by roads because they are already connected by something else: history, necessity, and shared identity. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe for more documentaries and stories about the world's most unusual places. And if you know of another community that lives in a way most people would never expect, leave a comment and tell me about it. Sometimes the most remarkable places are the ones that never followed the road at all.